Welcome to SwitchCorner, my name is Alex and today we're taking a look at Severed Steel on the Nintendo Switch, a parkour styled first person shooter with a sci-fi spin, but how does it play and should you part with that cash? Well, hit subscribe, join us here on SwitchCorner for reviews and deals near daily, and let's get started. Story then, and there's very little to it. It's all summed up in a matter of minutes with some minor cartoon styled cutscenes. Basically, you lose an arm, it becomes an adaptation for a weapon, and you can rotate now between cannons. Think Evil Dead with the arm loss, but Mega Man in its design. It seems though you're out to escape what is some sort of evil faction, but there's really very little to it. Gameplay then, and I would compare this to Ghost Runner with a gunplay slant instead of katana. The idea really is simple though: face off against 42 increasingly challenging levels and overcome the simplistic objectives. These typically revolve around reaching a location or destroying something. It's all about the adrenaline rush this one, while overwhelming you with foes to take on. It's not really concerning itself too much with overcomplicated scenarios. Clearly influenced by The Matrix though in many scenes, it absolutely delivers with its fist-scroller gunplay and bullets are just limited. Basically, if you do run out, this is not a game where you reload. Either you pick something new up or you kick an opponent squarely in their face before catching their gun. So think the lobby scene from the original Matrix, and it honestly sums up the majority of levels here perfectly. Controls then provide a lot of flexibility. We can jump, double jump, dive, slide, kick, fire our main weapon, our cannon, and finally chuck the weapons as well. We can also combine many of these elements. For example, kicking a wall will project you further up. There's environmental items such as fans to elevate you, and then you'll even start to recognize you can do things like wall run, you can dive through glass, you can even destroy the environment and create new pathways with that giant arm cannon. Alongside all of this then, the Matrix reference, we do have a bullet time that's attached to the left trigger, and it comes with a cooldown meter as well if you are simply running. If you are diving, sliding, jumping, or even all of the above, it is unlimited and it renders you invincible to all incoming fire. This game wants you to feel like a badass, and it definitely encourages that here. I also want to point out here though, at the same time, it's still an incredibly challenging game. Controls are fast though, you can redirect in air because no one wants real physics, and it comes with a slew of options including the ability to toggle bullet time, you can invert the pitch, as well as then remap all inputs, and you have luck acceleration options and sensitivity changes. Sadly then, and this is a miss in my opinion, we do not see gyro controls, which I think would have hugely benefited the game, as often we do need pinpoint accuracy and quick, reactions, and the Switch Pro controller, it's always struggled in this arena. You'll see often on screen the somewhat jerky nature of the movement, and you will feel like you are battling against it. Fortunately, the game seems very generous in regards to your enemies' hitboxes, and often as long as you are in the vicinity, those foes, they will go down. Alongside this then, we get a ton of options as well, some for fun, some to make things just a little bit more action-packed, others to help with that difficulty curve. Think weapons always ready, auto-stopping at ledges so you don't fall to your death, auto-activating slow motion. It is a huge old list. On top of this as well, then we do get 5 built-in difficulties, a new game plus mode, and then a slew of unlockables to drive replayability. Think different arm cannons or multiple mutators. Think a single bullet for every gun you pick up, or even some just fun ones like I said, like a big head mode. Now, it's not a long game at the same time to put that out there, hence all of these options, maybe a couple of hours, but they clearly understood and delivered on the need for replayability, and yeah, that is absolutely great to see. This also then includes a mode called Firefight, which is an arcade edition where you basically complete challenges in a level of your choice. So yeah, look, the gameplay, no question, it's good fun, even when you're somewhat battling against the Switch hardware, but it does struggle with frame rate towards the end game. Now, they targeted 30 frames per second, but it is unlocked. So often in the early levels we will see fluctuations up to 40, but towards the end game then we do start to see momentary drops. These can prove particularly frustrating as you try to control that reticle on screen to target an enemy, but obviously you're fighting against it. Thankfully in these moments, so for me at least, they were short-lived. Basically, gameplay, it's still fun, but the compromises for this Switch build are clear. That's especially true then for the visuals, which we will get to here now. Graphically then, it's clear that's where some of the most aggressive cuts occurred for Severed Steel. The ultra stylish design is still in here, like objectives that flash across your screen in bold text, but it's accompanied with a heavy resolution drop. If you look at other builds, and it's basically all incredibly clean in comparison to this. It's almost sterile, but on the Switch, it doesn't quite have that same effect. It can often be almost confusing. Fortunately, some of the game's options do assist here though in identifying things like enemies. I think you can highlight them in the world. Shadow drops though have also made this one quite a bit darker as well, and while I like the idea of playing handheld to sharpen this image up, I do think it's too difficult with Joy-Con involved, as I did give it a go. You'd need to be playing at least tabletop or maybe using something such as the Split Pad Pro. The same can be said then for some of the gunfire as well, particularly the cannon. The particle effects have left something that feels somewhat weak, and we never truly capture the weight and destruction of this environment. Finally, for graphics, the enemies still have some good designs throughout, and I really did enjoy some of the animations, even though I will say on occasion you will notice an enemy, let's say, firing at the ceiling for an unknown reason, and his bullets are going in opposite direction. Also though, the game never suffers from popping. That was a concern of mine going in, because that would be brutal in a world that can kill you in an instance. It seems they've tried to make the right calls though to get this one up and running on the Nintendo Switch, and I would say I probably would have preferred a bigger push towards the visuals. Audio finally, there's no real dialogue outside of enemy grunts. There's some minor environmental effects, but the real focus here, it's on the guns and the music. It absolutely wins in these areas. The guns sound heavy, as do the cannons. The destruction in the world sounds better than it looks, and the soundtrack then, a techno-tinged cyberpunk design, and it absolutely delivers. It's high intensity stuff though that absolutely reinforces that fight for your life mentality of the game ahead of you, and it will keep you on the edge of your seat. If you're not feeling the track playing as well, you can even skip it in the pause menu, which is always a nice touch. So the final verdict, and Severed Steel, and no question a good game, and they've clearly put effort into the port, but it's got its shortcomings, as is so often the case with the genre on the Switch. First, some out of their controller. The controller we have access to, not particularly up to the task, and then the visual downgrade. That's a case of hardware power, even if I do think they probably could have squeezed more out of it. Just look at Crisis as an example. It's going to be incredibly impactful though to your experience, as it does make the game harder as you're trying to identify those enemies. For me then as well, another big miss on the devs part in here, the miss of gyro controls. I know for a fact here, if we had had this, it definitely would have helped in those more intense moments where we need to make those micro adjustments. I would have suggested maybe gyro only works when we are using slow motion. I think if we could see that patched in the future as well, it would be a bit of a game changer. So yeah, basically I wouldn't play this on the Switch as my first choice. I would look elsewhere. It's available pretty much at this point on every single platform out there, so if you have the option, do head to one of those. But overall, I will say still here, I had my fun with it, so it's going to be a slightly above average 6 out of 10. Its compromises, basically, they can't completely stand in the way of the entertainment you will find in here. Will you be adding this one to the library then, or holding onto that cash? A shout out then to the patrons of the channel who are going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. It helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. Then hit subscribe, join us here on SwitchCorner for reviews and deals near daily, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.